Imagine a city where traffic accidents happen every day. People demand a new traffic law. The government is ready to draft one. But then a judge asks a simple question: do we really need a new law, or do we simply need the police to enforce the laws we already have? Suddenly, the entire debate changes. This is exactly what happened in Supreme Court's discussion on hate speech. Whenever hateful speeches trigger violence or disturb public order, the first reaction is often India needs stricter laws. But the Supreme Court looked deeper. It observed that the bigger challenge is not the absence of laws. The real challenge is poor enforcement of the existing ones. Think of India's legal system as a giant toolbox. The tools already exist. The Indian criminal law contains provisions against promoting enmity, inciting violence, and disturbing public order. The Constitution itself allows reasonable restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression under Article 19(1)(a). Article 19(2) clearly states that free speech is not absolute. The state can impose reasonable restrictions in the interest of public order, sovereignty, and integrity of India. Security of state, decency and morality, defamation, incitement to an offense, friendly relations with foreign states, contempt of court. In other words, the Constitution never intended freedom of speech to become freedom to spread hatred or violence. Now imagine a football match. The rule book is perfect, but the referee refuses to blow the whistle when players break the rules. Would writing a thicker rule book solve the problem? Of course not. The problem is enforcement. That is precisely the court's concern. If authorities fail to register complaints promptly, if investigations are delayed, if prosecutions are weak, then even the strongest law becomes meaningless. The Supreme Court's observation shifts the focus from law making to law implementation. This is also important in the context of India's recent criminal law reforms, where the emphasis is increasingly on making the justice system more efficient rather than merely adding more offenses. The larger constitutional lesson is equally important. A democracy survives because it protects free speech, but it also survives because it prevents speech that incites hatred, violence, or threatens public order. The challenge is finding the balance. Too much restriction can silence legitimate criticism. Too little enforcement can allow hatred to spread. That balance is where constitutional democracy truly lives. So the Supreme Court's message was simple yet powerful. India does not necessarily need more laws against hate speech. It needs the courage, consistency, and commitment to enforce the laws it already has. Because the strength of a legal system is measured not by the number of laws written in books, but by how fairly and effectively those laws are implemented.